Have you ever wondered how massive organizations, we're talking governments, global corporations, possibly keep up with all the digital threats out there? It feels like complete chaos, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the actual blueprint they use to bring some serious order to all that madness. Let's dive in.
To really get a feel for the scale we're talking about, let's just start with a number: 800 million. According to our source material, that's how many people were affected by cyber attacks by 2013 alone. That's a staggering number. These aren't just data points, they're people. The digital battlefield is absolutely huge, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
So before we can even talk about the solution, you have to appreciate the problem. And the problem is this wild, creative, and sometimes just plain weird world of cyber threats. We're way beyond simple viruses now. The methods attackers use are surprisingly clever.
Okay, first up, the salami attack. And no, this has nothing to do with lunch. It's a type of financial crime where an attacker steals money in such tiny amounts that it goes completely unnoticed. You know, like slicing off a paper-thin piece of salami over and over again. They might skim a fraction of a cent from thousands of bank transactions. By itself, it's nothing. But you add all those tiny slices up, and suddenly, you've got a fortune. Next, we've got something called data diddling. It's a funny name, but the technique is seriously effective. Basically, it's just changing data right before the computer processes it, and then changing it right back after it's done. Imagine, say, changing your payroll file to give yourself a huge bonus, letting the payment go through, and then switching the number back to normal. It's a super sneaky way to manipulate data at the perfect moment. And then there's webjacking. This one is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A hacker hijacks a website, taking total control. They could change the homepage, they could redirect you to a malicious site, you name it. It's basically the digital version of taking over a TV station and broadcasting your own show. So you've got the attacks, but that's only half the story. You also have to think about who the attackers are. On one side, you have unstructured attacks. These are often from amateurs, maybe someone who just downloaded a tool and is messing around. They're not as skilled, but they can still cause a lot of damage. But then, on the other side, you have structured attacks. These are the pros. Highly skilled, well-funded, and they have very specific goals, whether it's money or espionage.
So, when you put it all together, the crazy methods, the range of attackers from kids in their basement to professional spies, it's easy to feel completely overwhelmed. It really makes you ask the question, how on earth can any organization possibly defend against such a chaotic storm of threats?
Well, here's the secret. You don't fight chaos with more chaos. You fight it with a plan, a structured, logical, repeatable blueprint for your defense. It's not about finding some magic bullet that stops every single threat. It's about having a smart system to manage the risk of those threats happening in the first place.
And this is where we get to the heart of it, risk management. And look, I know this sounds like a dry corporate buzzword, but it's actually a really powerful philosophy. As our source material puts it, it's a continuous process. You're always on the lookout for what could go wrong, you're figuring out how likely that is to happen, and then you're making smart, informed decisions about what to do about it. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory. There are real-world blueprints that people actually use, and one of the biggest ones comes from the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. Their risk management framework, the RMF, is pretty much the gold standard. The entire U.S. government uses it, and tons of corporations do too. It's the master plan for building a solid defense. And the RMF isn't a one-and-done kind of checklist. Oh no, it's a living, breathing cycle. It all starts with categorize, which is just figuring out how important your systems are. Then you select the right security tools or controls for that system. Next up, you implement them. You actually put them in place. After that, you assess them to make sure they're working right. Then you authorize the system, giving it the official go-ahead. And finally, and this is so important, you monitor everything all the time. And when something changes, the cycle just starts all over again.
So, if the framework is the blueprint, what are the actual tools in the toolbox? Well, they're called security controls. Just think of them as specific, pre-written rules and actions that are designed to deal with specific threats. NIST has hundreds of them. Let's look at a few real ones to see how this actually works.
All right, take a look at this. I know, it looks like a wall of complicated jargon. This is the official language, straight from the NIST playbook. This control is all about what happens when someone leaves the company. It might look dense, but it's designed to solve a very common problem: the angry ex-employee.
So, let's translate that into plain English.
All it's saying is this: when someone's job ends, an automated system instantly shuts down all of their accounts. It takes human error completely out of the equation. No forgotten passwords, no open backdoors. It's simple, it's automatic, and it's secure.
Here's another one. This is all about managing temporary accounts. You know, like when you give a contractor access for a few weeks or set up a guest Wi-Fi account. These things are classic security holes because it's so easy for people to create them and then just forget they exist.
And again, this simple translation is just powerful common sense. This rule basically says that temporary accounts need an expiration date. That contractor's access, it automatically shuts off after 30 days. No one has to remember to do it. It's another brilliant rule that prevents a simple human mistake.
Okay, one last example. And this one is about data that's, well, just sitting there. We think a lot about protecting data while it's flying across the internet, but what about all the sensitive files just sitting on hard drives and servers? That's what information at rest means. So what does this mean for us? It means that even when data isn't being used, it has to be protected. This rule says that stored information must be encrypted or secured somehow. That way, if someone walks out the door with a hard drive, they can't actually get to any of the secrets on it. Okay, so let's zoom back out and look at the big picture. What we've really seen here is a shift from panicked, chaotic reactions to a smart, proactive strategy. It's not about trying to be invincible, because you can't be. It's about being resilient and making smart, risk-based decisions day in and day out.
So, what's the bottom line here? First, the world of cyber threats is incredibly diverse, and it's always changing. Second, you can't defend against every little thing at once, so you have to prioritize. Third, a risk management framework, like the one from NIST, gives you that structure to prioritize smartly. And finally, that big framework is built on hundreds of practical, specific security controls that turn that high-level plan into real action.
At the end of the day, this whole thing is a story about taming complexity. These massive organizations have a deliberate, thoughtful framework to manage their digital risk. It kind of makes you think, doesn't it? For our own digital lives, with our own set of threats, what's our framework?